Hello, wise people. This is the Wise Finances Podcast. In today's episode, we have Ashley Turner here with us today to let us know how she paid off her student loan debt. Hey, Ashley, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's the first time I've been on a podcast ever.
And you are officially the first guest. So I'm excited to have you here. So you are the first guest, and that'll be exciting to hear a little bit about your story. I want the listeners to really get into all that you have accomplished. It's been a lot. I personally know Ashley. We're in our same sorority sister. We're sorority sisters. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Ski Week.
Ski week.
So yeah, let's jump right into it. So Ashley, like I know you are a lawyer, so maybe just start off like why did you want to go to law school, and what did you think about that and your debt? Just to get the listeners to know a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of grew up with a family who encouraged me to go to law school, just like by the way that I interacted with them. They're like, ever since I was 5 years old, they said, you should be a lawyer. And I went to college, kind of forgot about it, but I graduated in 2008. The economy was so bad. Although I had a college degree at that time, I felt like I couldn't get a job at all. And so I was like, wait, someone said I should be a lawyer. Okay, let me go to law school. So that's kind of what led me there. But because of that, I didn't like do a lot of research. I didn't realize how expensive it was going to be. Like I didn't know about student loans. I was just like signing papers like left and right. Like, oh, okay, like this is what you do when you want to go to law school or grad school. You just take out a bunch of student loans. So
yeah, it's like the normal. It's like the norm. So no one shared with you before, like that was odd. Did you have many student loans from like your undergrad?
I was lucky enough.
Or was this kind of like?
Yeah, I was lucky enough where my parents actually paid for undergrad. And so this was my first experience with student loans. Yeah.
Got you. Okay. And so what was it until you realized, like, how if you mind me asking, like, what was the total amount or how much did you start off in the first year? Because I know law school is 3 years. So did you see like it progressively getting worse each year, each year, or how was that?
I never looked at my loans until I graduated.
Wow. So you were just like accept, sign.
Well, it's so interesting because I actually had a scholarship. I got like half of my tuition paid for. And every time they sent me like a paper to sign, like, hey, you're approved for $10,000 this semester. I never took all of it. I would always be like, oh, I don't need that. I'll just take like 8,000. Just not even doing any math. Just like trying to be a little bit responsible. But that was the most responsibility I had. And so I was very surprised when I graduated to find out that my loans were 6 figures.
Wow, 6 figures?
158,000 in 3 years. And that's with the scholarship and with not accepting the full amount offered every year.
Yeah, it's like you could have had more. You was like, so you just picked the number based on like what you were feeling. Like, okay, I know they said take 10,000 of this like Parent Plus, but you would be like, oh no, I just like the number 7, so I'm gonna take 7,000.
Yeah,
it was just like
yeah, I thought I was being responsible. Like, no, I shouldn't take all of it. I could live on less. But it was
got you.
It wasn't based off of anything. It was just based off of some weird fantasy thing in my head.
So if you would think back, do you think most of the loans went to actually the schooling, or was it like more of like the cost of living, right? Because you're I'm assuming you went to a full-time program, right? So you weren't working
I was
at the time. Okay.
Actually, law school, the American Bar Association, they don't even allow students to work their first year of law school. You're only allowed to work 5 hours a week, which, hello.
Yeah, what is that? Yeah.
my friend was actually a DJ. So it worked for him because he could pull out, a little gig on the weekends and pull up that $500. But for all of us, no, you couldn't have a job your first year. So that unfortunately is what creates a substantial debt for law students. It's because we don't have really opportunities to make money. And then it's like, well, go do this free internship at this law firm because you want to be an attorney. And so the opportunities to make money are not that great throughout that 3 years. Gotcha. But yeah, going back to your question.
You have to depend on the loan to, like, you have to depend on the loan to just survive.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of it, like you said, was cost of living. Like, I moved away from home. I had to pay that rent every month, all that food. I may have, bought some clothes, that discretionary fund, just a little bit, but you're also buying like work clothes and suits for the first time and computers. And so, yeah, things start to add up.
Okay. So what made you want to get serious about paying, your loans off? Was it a certain time? Like, was it immediately right after law school? When did that kind of come about for you?
So when I graduated from law school, or I think there's like that period of time where they don't make you pay your loans back. And after that period of, so then once I started paying, I was like, okay, this seems manageable. Like, I applied to do it based off of my income. I think it's like 10% of my income. It wasn't very high. So I was like, just automatically paying every month. And then a year goes by and I'm looking at my loans like, is that getting higher? Am I crazy? Like, my balance is not going down. And I like have to go back, like, wait, how much did I have in January? Because it's December now. And yeah, I thought it was going crazy. And that's when I realized, like, I am paying money every month and these loans are not going down. They're increasing. Right. Who wants to lose money from their pocket? And yeah, like, it did not make sense. And so around that time, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. That's when my brother introduced me to this guy named Dave Ramsey, who's, as you know, like, super big into getting out of debt. And so I just started like listening to all of the podcasts and reading all of the books. And I was like, I need to make this happen for myself. Like, I need to get out under this debt somehow. Yeah.
So you just went full in. For those who don't know, Dave Ramsey is a personal finance guru in really large platform. You name it, all like hundreds of millions of subscribers, followers. So he has this method called the debt snowball that he really pushes. So that's what the approach you went to start attacking with your debt with, correct? Or did you kind of do your own thing?
I definitely did the debt snowball for sure. It's so funny because it was the end of the year. Like I said, it was like around December when I finally heard about Dave Ramsey. And instead of jumping in right away, I was like, well, I'll just start in January, the new year. Let me go ahead and buy all of these like clothes and like fun things that I want before I, like, quote unquote, cut myself off and don't have a life anymore.
Right. It was like, I'm so close. It's like, I might as well just put it off into the new year. Cause it's like, new year, refocus. I'm gonna really cut back in the new year. So
yeah, exactly. So that's when I started, really looking at, okay, what's my income? And at that time it was like, oh my gosh, less than half. So that was just so crazy to me to think that then my debt was more than 2 times my income. So I just had to really look at the numbers and started creating my budget for the first time. Like, how much is rent? How much money is food every month? How much is gas for my car so I can just put all the rest, anything extra I had on towards my debt.
Right. So what was those times when you start the snowball method? Usually, and this from my case, this happened to me, and I wonder if this happened to you as well. That's when I felt like others around me, or it got harder, like temptation was harder for me at that time, because I was so like, I have to be diligent. I got to given myself this self-imposed kind of minimum, right, to get yourself out the debt. But it's not a requirement. It's different when you paying a bill, like you paying rent because you know you have it. But how did you keep yourself motivated during that time when you knew like you can choose to make this payment or not make this payment?
So the most important thing, and this is something I think everyone should have, is like a why, a vision, a purpose. Just wanting to get out of debt, that'll motivate you for a couple of months, and then it'll be like every other New Year's resolution. It won't exist by February. And so for me, my why was I want financial freedom. Like, and it's not just financial freedom, it's freedom in every area of your life. I thought about my future. I thought about myself as a mother. Like, maybe when I have kids, I'm going to want to stay home. Or maybe once I get married, we're going to want to travel for a couple of years. So I just wanted that freedom to have options in my life. So whenever times got tough, I kind of had already like that why, that vision of the future I want to have to sort of anchor me to get through the hard times. And the second thing, or I guess the biggest thing, Alana, that I had to learn was contentment. I don't know if you struggled with that at all, but we in the United States live such privileged lives, and I didn't understand that really until I wanted to get out of debt and I kept telling myself no. I remember growing up and looking in the refrigerator and being like, there's no food to eat. And you like keep opening the fridge. I'm so hungry. There's no food here. When, what a privileged statement. There is food in there. There is that can of spaghetti sauce sitting in the back of the cabinet, or that can of soup that's been in there for 3 months, but it's just something I didn't want.
You didn't want it. Keyword want.
Yeah. And same thing with clothes. Like, you're going to a wedding. Oh, I need a new dress. Because you look in your closet. I have nothing to wear for this wedding. I have nothing to wear for this date. That's something that we say all the time, but it's literally false. I have clothes. I just don't want to wear them. So sort of reframing my mind and just like forcing myself to eat that nasty can of beans in the back of my cupboard.
Right. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because it's like, or you know what get me? It'll be like, okay, I know it's the 14th, or I know it's so close to me to like getting some more money, but like in my budget, like I literally went shopping. This is it. Like I'm kind of tapped out. I'll have like 2 cents left in my, or $2 left in my cent. So if I buy something, if I go out, I technically went over budget, but I knew like money was coming like in a couple of hours, but it was like so hard for me to just like, no, don't do it. Like, don't do it. Don't do it. Stick to the plan, stick to the goals. Think about, like you said, like, what's your purpose beyond that? Like, I got to think about that freedom. And you definitely, that's so true, because we get so entitled into what we don't have or what we want. We don't even realize what we actually do have.
Right. And let's just talk about Starbucks for a second.
Oh, yes, I love it.
Because I would literally tell myself, do I want Starbucks right now, or do I want to get out of debt? And we think like, oh, I want both.
Yeah.
But I had to realize, no, Ashley, you can't have both. So I learned to make coffee at home. It never tasted as good. But I mean, that's, like you said, like it just goes back to my why. And obviously 6 figures is a lot of money, and you can't just tell yourself no, no, no every day. And well, at least I couldn't, and expect to be successful. So I sort of gave myself little rewards or like little milestones along the way.
Right.
As an example, my work schedule is pretty like 9 to 5. Well, I shouldn't say that as a lawyer, but like most of the time I'm working starting at 9 a.m. in the morning. Like that's my start time. But once in a while I had to work up at 6. So on those days I'm like, okay, Ashley, it's 6 a.m. You deserve a Starbucks. Like you can go to Starbucks today. So I think little things like that and kind of kept me going.
Yeah, and I think too, like milestones for yourself. Like, okay, I went down like 5K. Okay, I made it to the 10K mark. I made it to the 15K mark. Like, okay, I made it to these little milestones to be like, okay, I want to reward myself. And I think true, like I always say, your budget should still reflect you and your values, right? Like, so if your values is like giving and that's what is important to you, like regardless of how much debt you're in, like that should still be reflective in your budget, right? Because that's what brings you more joy than anything. And that's going to help you keep you grounded and keep you motivated, because you still have your money is being valued in the things that matter to you. So I think sometimes we get so caught up in what other people's values are, or keeping up with the Joneses, that it's like, oh, when you set the date, like, am I really getting these new clothes because I value these new clothes, or I'm getting these new clothes because I want to look good for this person that that it didn't work out with anyway.
Right, exactly.
So wasting my time
and your money.
Hello. And your money, yeah. Yeah, so that I love that you definitely like recognize that and express that here to our listeners. How does it feel now? Like your life, has it changed, since becoming debt free, since paying off your student loans?
It's great, but you know what? It's a little bit weird also. I remember, so
please explain. Wait.
Well, okay. So I was very, very aggressive with my budget. I would eat the same thing almost every day because I enjoyed what I was eating. And 2, it was inexpensive. Like one of my favorite foods is spaghetti, but it doesn't cost that much, So
and it can last too.
Exactly. And so all of a sudden it's like, I don't have debt, and it's like, I guess I should be buying different food now. And every time I would get a bonus at work or like my tax refund, I would put it all in my debt. And so now I get like a large sum of money. I'm just like, I don't know what to do with this anymore. I feel like I kind of lost my vision a little bit, but I'm getting back there, like learning more about investing and retirement and all of those things. So I'm kind of in a transition period right now. That's why I said weird. I know I'll get there, but it feels so great. Even though I said all that, like it does feel great to not have like that baggage of debt weighing on me anymore.
No, that does make sense, because you went so hard and went, I guess, like gazelle intense, right? That was kind of like that was the only thing you noticed. That's the only thing you've seen. So now it's like your world has opened up for money, right? Yeah. What can you you really have all this income, and it sounds like your lifestyle hasn't shifted that much either, right? You're not getting into the habit of like increasing your lifestyle a whole bunch more now that you're out of debt. So that's key. So you're like, wait, I still have all this left over. So what to do? And yeah, you're gonna be fine. Not worried at all. Like put that in some index funds, your retirement account. not even worried about your next steps at all. It's really gonna be about truly for you to like enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like incorporate that back into your budget, enjoying, the fruits of your labor. You work hard for it, so you definitely deserve that.
Yeah. I think that's important to remember the enjoyment part of the money, because I think I went a little bit very, very far to the other side. And so thank you for reminding me that I do get to enjoy um, the money, because I worked hard to get out of debt. So
Yep.
I get to breathe.
Exactly. Cool. I would say, what would be kind of like that last message? What would be the last kind of message you want to share with our listeners who are feeling a little overwhelmed with their debt? Economy's crazy. There's times now, things are so uncertain. What would be the advice you give them to just go ahead and, attacking their debt in like?
Yeah, I think honestly, and this is true with everything in life, the hardest part is just starting. Like, I really encourage you to just take the first step, whether that's actually facing the fact of that scary number for your first time of how much debt you're in, or creating the budget for the very first time. And not only creating the budget, but going back and tracking your expenses to see if you're staying within the budget. The hardest part is starting, and you're not going to have all the answers in the beginning, and that's okay. You're learning. And, it's going to take a while to get into a rhythm. But if you can just have the courage to make that first move, then I think anything is possible.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Actually, a curious question, because I'm really into like budgeting. How long did it take you to kind of figure out your budget? Did it like trial and error? Did it take a couple of months? Because you said you were kind of first using a budget the first time, you were like, I got to attack this debt. So before then, you hadn't really used budgeting, or what?
Not at all. So it took me about 2 to 3 months where I could feel comfortable saying like, oh, I spend this much amount on food. Or like, how much gas did I spend driving to work, of course, before people living in their houses every day. But so it took me a couple of months, and I chose to use an app called Every Dollar.
Yes.
But there's just so many different budgeting apps out there that I think makes budgeting like super easy, and kind of, because I'm a little bit of a nerd, kind of fun too.
Yeah. It's like you really get in, when you really get into it, you're like, wow, you can see, I remember feeling like I really don't make enough. But then when I really sat back and I was like, oh, this is how much I'm really supposed to have after everything comes out. Like, where is it going? Like, what do I really buy? And then that's when I realized that I was putting in things that really it wasn't important to me, right? It didn't give me that value. So it didn't make sense for me to be spending on that, and then start shifting that, towards the debt, and then towards savings and et cetera, and the things that, I truly value. So again, I'm glad you said 2 to 3 months, because everyone thinks like you just make a budget and it's just supposed to work out like immediately and change. It's like, no, it's trial and error. You're gonna figure out that what you think you spend on food is not what the reality of what you spend on food, because it's so easy to just use our debit cards and credit cards. It's hard to keep track with some of those numbers. And that's why, like you said, the Every Dollar app is good to use for budgeting. And do you still use that now? Like, even though you're out of debt?
I do. There's a couple, like, I'm not perfect, so I've missed a couple of months, and I have a pretty good idea in my head of like my numbers now, because I've been doing it for years and years. So that's helpful. But I still do it. I love it. I love it. Like, it's kind of like a competition with myself. Like, oh, how much can I not spend? Like, guilty
charge. Like, okay, so I kind of check if I really be realistic, I'm looking on my budgeting app probably like once a day.
Wow, that's a lot.
That
I'm
is
so
a lot.
proud of you.
Because you know why? Because I'm always like, I've had the worst issues with like banks charging me, or things are not adding up. You leave a tip and the restaurant puts the wrong number in. So I'm just always like, what's supposed to be in my number, like it needs to reflect in my, but it needs to reflect in my budget, it needs to reflect in my accounts. Like, so that's why I'm kind of like OCD on it. So I just kind of like want to make sure, especially when things are pending. I'm like, pending is like the worst thing to me. Like, let it go. Like, I need to know what's posted.
Yeah.
So like that's why. But really, I love the last day of the month, because that's when I get to like really reconcile everything, and I do a big like it's like I love the last day of the month just for that, just to like get into the budget, just to wrap up the last month and then get into the next month's budget.
Okay, I like doing that too. I'm like, oh, the month's over, I can create a new budget.
Yeah,
like,
it's
whose birthdays are coming up this month? Like, how much
Right.
money am I gonna spend on gifts? Like, yeah, it's fun.
It's literally, budgeting is really like planning. It's like planning your expenses. So it's almost like your calendar. My calendar and my budget are like hand in hand, looking up, okay, I see that. And I know, like, I just got it down to like, I know when my expensive months are. Mother's Day, May, like that's a big month for me, where I'm spending a lot more than I normally do, just because Mother's Day, mom's birthday, car insurance all comes out in May.
Oh.
So it's like those things is like, I already know that. But it before, when I was struggling, like I couldn't understand why I never like had any money in May. But I never made that point that this is why, because these events happen in this month.
Yeah, and I think, for big months like that, I think people who are inexperienced with budgeting, they don't realize like how to do that to their advantage. So as an example, let's just take Christmas. And Christmas, we all know it's December 25th. And so people shouldn't be surprised when it's December and all of a sudden they're spending hundreds of dollars on gifts. It's like, no, like in our budgets, if we have like a desire to give someone a really expensive gift for our partner or maybe a parent, it's like, well, how much money do I need to save per month? So you can start in like June and you're going to save $20 for that special gift for your partner every month, and then by December, you have that full $120 because you've been saving $20 for 6 months to get them like a really nice gift.
Exactly. Yeah. Just preparing and knowing ahead of time, and not being surprised by things that's already known, like the true things that that's going to always happen every year, same time, same or quarter events, that they're going to happen quarterly. So yeah, thank you so much, Ashley. I learned so much from you in this podcast. So definitely hope our listeners will be able to just take in Ashley's advice. I think key things that she mentioned was, when you want to get out of debt, have your reason why, have your goals, keep those in mind, and just start. Even how much you have, whatever that number is, it is okay. Just get started. This is the Wise Finances Podcast.